Hi there, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Life Quiz. My name's Cash Peters, and my guest this time is an Emmy-winning graphic designer. She and her husband Scott designed the opening titles for American Idol, The Ellen Show, and countless others. Jill Katz is an example to us all. Her upbeat, joyful, generous attitude is an inspiration. Just being with her, you feel better automatically. It's quite a gift. She's from Indiana originally. Her father, Maury Katz, was an entrepreneur, very highly political, well-connected. He took Jill to the White House for dinner when she was a kid during the Carter administration. He also, though, had a darker side, as you'll hear, and did something that most children would find very hard to forgive. And although Jill is still grappling with certain painful aspects of all of that, her spirit is just one of forgiveness and dusting yourself off and getting back in the game. Shortly before doing this interview, she'd had serious back surgery. But did it stop her? Oh no, she came anyway. Got a cane, walked down the stairs. That's how she is. Determined, a lover of life, rebellious, individualistic, unique, certainly. I think you're really going to enjoy hearing about her life and also her answers to the life quiz. 3 rounds of questions about life, living, and lessons learned. It's a real treat.
Why are we here?
What's it all about?
What's the point of being alive?
What will be my legacy?
Where do we go after we die?
The Life Quiz.
The Life Quiz.
Secrets to a happy and fulfilled life revealed by the famous, the fascinating, or the just plain fabulous.
Hosted by Cash Peters.
Cash Peters.
My view of you is completely different to how you probably are. You see, I see you as bubbly, vivacious, and smart, all these things. But you cannot have survived for as long as you have in the industry you've survived in without also being pretty brutal.
I don't really have that many brutal situations. I've been really lucky in my business. I've come across really good people to work with, and the ones that weren't good to work with, I resigned or got away from.
But you started relatively young.
My first job, I was 13.
What did you do at 13?
I worked for my father in a bag company in Indianapolis, Indiana, and they actually made burlap bags that were used and shipped all over the world. And they made construction products that were like a combination of burlap and laminated plastic, and it was called Berlin, and it was used all over the world to cure concrete.
And were you expected to work in the family business?
Yeah, everybody was.
And if you didn't,
and
then what?
everyone did.
Yeah, but sure, but then if you didn't, what?
The wrath of Morris Katz.
Really? Was he a wrathful man?
Well, he was tough. He was really tough and loud. Yeah, he was tough. I have very mixed feelings about my father.
Even now?
Uh-huh. He did a really bad thing. He kept me from knowing the history of my birth and my mother, my birth mother. He always said she was dead and that she left us. And then when I was 40, I found her. I had to find her. And when I met her, she hadn't left us. She'd been escorted to the Indiana state line by my father. See, he was so possessive of my sister and I, and really worried that whatever could happen to us. So he was a little overprotective, and being that way made it very difficult for us.
Was he protective or just controlling?
Both. Protective and controlling. He used the excuse of being protective to allow him to be controlling.
When you use the word tough, do you mean cruel?
He had his sides of cruelty. I mean, he could be so cruel to a waitress in a restaurant.
In what way?
Just lambaste her and belittle her, call her, "Get over here now." Or he'd get up in a restaurant because no one was attending to him.
So, given that you grew up in that kind of environment, with that kind of backdrop, you can't not have that streak in you.
I had it.
And how did that materialize?
Oh, in my teenage years, I was a brat, and I used to kind of treat my friends crappy, and I always thought that I could just say I was sorry and everything would be okay, because that's what my father did. But truly I wasn't, and I lost a lot of friends along the way. And so I think over the years, as I got away from my father, I started to realize that life is about forgiveness, and people will forgive you if you ask them to. And if you behave nicely, you won't have to ask for forgiveness. So I think I just kind of turned myself around. You know, I've been married 3 times, and in all 3 relationships, I guess I was a little bit afraid of abandonment because of my bad temper.
Do you think that a lot of your life, or a lot of your change of personality in order to be nicer, was about claiming the validation you never got when you were a kid?
Mm-hmm. I always had abandonment issues. Always thought that someone would leave me because my mother did. And I think...
But your mother didn't leave you.
Well, when I met her when I was 40, I asked her, "Why'd you leave?" And she said, "I can't remember. That was so long ago. Mr. Katz and I had a falling out." Well, I found out the true story, which was she couldn't stand his wrath. She couldn't stand his temper. And she was a young girl. She was an heiress to a great, great fortune. And her mother's chauffeur's son was a handsome guy named Harvey Looper, and he worked in a jewelry store. And she fell in love with him, and they started having an affair. And my father came home one day and found my mother on the phone with her lover. And that was it. And so he had her escorted to the state line, to which I think she went with Harvey. She was in a hotel room and tried to commit suicide because she could not imagine that she would not have her babies with her in her future life.
But wasn't Harvey a black guy?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the issue with your father?
Yeah.
She was dating a black guy.
And now it's very common, and families are all mixed race.
But back then...
Back then it was a crime. It was an Indiana state law that you would not date, marry black and, mixed race. Remember, Indianapolis, Indiana is one of the most conservative areas in the country. There's a big John Birch Society there.
They have no idea they're discriminating. They have no idea they're promoting hatred. They have no idea that intolerance is a bad thing, right?
Right.
Even to today.
To today. My father always lied about it, and he always said, "Well, she doesn't care about you. She's dead. You'll never hear from her." And then I would, as we were growing up, there would be strange phone calls to the house. And they were part of my mother's family trying to reach out, wanting to meet their half-sisters. And my parents would never let that go through. And then when I was 40 and I was going to see her, I went to my father's office. I said, "Dad, don't you have any files on my mother?" And he said, "I don't know." I went into his file cabinet and found a file called Ruth Elaine. Inside that folder were about 30 to 40 cards, letters, birth announcements, little $5 bills for our birthdays, things that had been sent to us throughout probably the first 12 years of our life, and they just got stuck in a folder, never given to us because my father never encouraged that. That was really sad because I took all that to her when I saw her.
Did that hurt her?
No, she was tickled. She completely forgot.
The whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
And how are you with your kids?
There were definitely difficult times. And when I moved out here to LA to be with Scott, my daughter was saying that I had abandoned her. And I said, "You don't know what abandonment is, Of course I'm very present in your life, and you're welcome to come be with us."
But if somebody accuses you of abandonment,
yeah,
I can imagine that just picks at an old wound and it bleeds immediately.
Total. Yeah. And I'm still dealing with it because when I found her family.
Your mother you're talking about?
Yeah. She had a whole beautiful, wonderful family. And I jumped into that family for that period and then disappeared completely. And they called me to tell me that my mother had died and that she had said on her deathbed that one of the great days of her life was meeting me. She wished she had met my sister Debbie, but she really felt closure, and I felt it too. As I now look back on my life and the fact that my mother's been gone all this time, I think to myself, wow, she kept my father at bay. She kept my father sane enough to deal with raising us, with all his fears, with all his paranoia. She was the saving grace.
Why was he so afraid, do you suppose?
I think,
Where does that paranoia come from?
The paranoia came from his fear of losing us to our mother, that she might come back with, quote unquote, some of her people and take us away. And I think that's where the paranoia lay, in his fear of losing us after all that.
To me, as an outsider, you have a kind of freewheeling lifestyle that's lovely. I remember we were at your house once, and you were yelling from the back porch or whatever you've got there, "Hi, I'm smoking pot!" And it was like, "Hey, look at me, everybody!"
Well, I'm legal now.
But look at me, I'm a rebel. Is that a reaction to all that stuff as a kid?
No. I was 19 when I had my first joint, and I always thought that it was so awful the first time. But I don't know, over years, I found it was the harmless medication, so to speak. I didn't like booze. I didn't like pills. And I wasn't into being codependent on anything except for weed. And I would always seem to find it, whether it was neighbors who had it or, I never really went to dealers. It was like, and I wasn't like at that time having to have it all the time. Now it's medical marijuana for me. It helps me with my back. And my husband and I both have cards. And so we're entitled to grow. So we actually grow marijuana for ourselves, so we never have to go out and look for it. And it's really good. We have a certain strain that happens to deal with back-related pain, so I can sleep on it or relax on it.
Are you mystified by the world's opposition to it?
Oh, there's no opposition anymore. I live in a state where it's legal to be, medically.
Well, medically, but it's not legal for everybody.
I think this year is going to be a big breakout year, and I think you're going to find medical marijuana or marijuana in general will start to become the norm, just as gay is starting to become the norm.
Except in Indiana.
Yeah, I think in Indiana I'd probably be in a penitentiary.
Are you kind of like a fun now girl? Or are you very circumspect?
To a certain degree, I think I'm changing. Now that I'm in retirement and I don't really have a mission every day for work, I'm still trying to figure that out. So I think I'm different now. I mean, I'm relishing in having 2 children married, and our stepson is now a father, just had a baby. So those are great things in our lives. I now have the time to enjoy that, but I got to find something to do. Well,
don't you think there comes a point where you can just give up?
No.
Oh, come on. No, I'm serious. Don't you think there's a point where
I'm watching everybody around me working and going and doing and being.
But that's such an
Even
LA
my sister.
thing. It was such an LA thing.
I don't know what I would do all day.
You're in a town doing work, which is the province of the young.
Yeah, it is.
Now, we happen to live in an age where experience, which used to be like the number one priority, who do we get who's done this before, now is about in third place behind who's cheap, who's available, who's young.
Hot.
Yeah, who's hot right now. Everything in this town, in Hollywood, conspires in a way to make you feel old, even when you're not.
30-year-olds feel old here. I mean, if you haven't gotten it together by 35 in this town, you are cooked because you won't get in. Experience in their point of view, the youth point of view, is unimportant because what they want is progressive thinking and new and cool ways of thinking. And don't forget, they all grew up with lots of screens and the internet and all the stuff that we didn't grow up with.
We were still playing with hoops.
Exactly. We were just learning TV. We were just learning radio. And when cable came in, we were like at the forefront of it all.
Yeah, but that's what makes you so remarkable in my eyes. Because at your age, you are still successful, still winning Emmys, still doing television stuff. How have you pulled that off? I've often wondered that. How did you pull it off? That people still come to you and say, hey, we're American Idol, do our titles. Or, hey, we're at the Ellen Show, do our titles.
Well, my husband's company, Aerodrome, is just one of the best brands in the design of broadcast and electronic media. I mean, he's been at it for probably 40 years.
But how old is he?
He's 68.
Why did they come to a
Well, right now
68-year-old
they're
guy?
not coming, okay? Which is not good. But that's okay because our careers have allowed us to be doing the kind of work that we always wanted to do and to be clever and creative and to work with people who are that way. And we are so blessed to have enjoyed, as you say, the recognition of our peers, lots of awards. You know, we did it all. We did every Open, the American Idol Open, the Super Bowl, the NBA, every top level item that you could do, we did.
How do you feel when you walk into an office in your 60s where the guy who's giving you the orders is half your age? What goes through your head? How do you deal with it?
It's really all about the work. If you nailed their directive, and if you came back with brilliant creative and good marketing strategy, they couldn't help but listen and want to give it to you.
But you don't see yourself through their eyes. I find this very, very hard as I get older to not look at myself through other people's eyes.
Well,
and if I meet a 24-year-old,
Yeah.
I'm not thinking, that guy probably likes me just for me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, God, he's probably thinking when I shake hands, I don't do that knuckle thing that they do, and that where they wiggle their fingers and do
you
that.
are who you are.
I
You
have
don't need
no
to be
idea what that
anybody
is.
else.
Yeah,
I
but do
mean,
you not
that's
see
them,
through their
you're
eyes then?
you.
Do you not see through their eyes?
Well, I have children that are young, and I've lived through a lot of their eyes, you know, and I've probably stayed cool as a parent because of them. I've walked in, as has Scott, to many offices where the client is half our age, and they've looked at us and said, you know, I don't know. I don't know if we can work
They want to
with you.
deal with their own, really.
They do. But the problem is their own may not know how to do it. Their own may not have the savvy. And as you said, the experience. And sometimes that experience speaks to, you know, the client better than the coolness of the project, you know.
The question is, given now the age thing, given the coolness thing, given the fact that increasingly the people you're going to deal with are going to be younger and younger and younger, are you at a point where you go, you know, I'd like to make jewelry for the rest of my life?
Well, I am at that point, but not jewelry. You know, I think what it was, we're a small company. We didn't employ anybody full time. And for the last maybe decade, we would hire freelancers.
Who are half your age?
Yeah, exactly. So they were great to bring into a presentation. And they had a lot of that young thinking, and they brought that to the party, which was great. But I think we found out over the last maybe 2 years that we were kind of, in the eyes of our clients, over or obsolete because we weren't the cool project. But we had certain clients who consistently came back.
Well, in the industry that you've been in all this time, there are a lot of hysterical, negative, cynical, destructive, sabotaging kind of people.
And we've dealt with them all.
And I don't doubt it for a second. But have you had to take them on as friends? Those kind of phony Hollywood friends that you need, and so they just become chums of yours, but really you actually detest them?
No. I mean, we would do things like, you know, take them out to dinner or something like that. That would be a business dinner, but never friendship. We only offer our friendship to people who value it or give back.
How much does the fame, power, or wealth of the person count in your eyes?
Not much. I mean, I have friends who are gazillionaires, and I have friends who are, you know, just getting by on assisted living or food stamps. And it doesn't matter. That was one thing I always admired about my dad, from cabbages to kings. He could hobnob with the Shah of Iran. And then, you know, the guy in his office who's, you know, just an immigrant from maybe Russia who couldn't, like, have clothes on his children's back. He would raise money for them or find them a home or find them, you know, he was always generous
So
that
there's a good
way.
core there, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the temper
I
or
learned
whatever.
a lot of good things from them, my parents, a lot. But in the end, I was angry at my father because the last 10 years of his life, he did suffer from dementia, and so he didn't really know who we were. And it put a lot of pressure on me and his wife at the time, my stepmother, Fran, to get along And I did my best for many, many years. She didn't make it easy. She had falling outs with my sister, so it became difficult. And in the end of my father's life, she was really kind of controlling him and not letting him be with his family. So I resented that. I resented the fact that he didn't stand tall and do a prenup agreement to protect his family and do things that would have been kinder and gentler to his children and grandchildren.
When he died, were you all showered in vast wealth?
No,
Was
none
there
of
at
us.
least some kind of...
Nothing. He left it all to his wife. And he wrote us letters to basically say, look, I took care of you in life, and now in my death, I'm going to take care of my wife. But the irony of it all was that she was taking care of him. She was paying for everything. So he didn't really need to take care of her, but I think his guilt took the best of him.
Is it an Indiana thing, that kind of weird behavior?
I think my father just felt that he really owed his wife the courtesy of paying her back for what she did for him. And that may be logical, but it wasn't.
It's kind of honorable, too.
It was, but it wasn't really, I mean, he could have taken care of his grandchildren at least.
The other thing I noticed was that you lived around the corner from David Letterman.
Yes.
Did you know David Letterman?
Yes.
He was a friend?
No. He was weird.
How was he weird?
Growing up, he was really funny. He had a face full of acne, but he was a class clown. Wasn't really that cute, but people liked him. He had a big crush on my sister.
Who would have thought that two people who would soar so high in the entertainment industry would come from that one little neighborhood?
He used to work as a bag grocer at this local food market, and he was bagging groceries. I kind of thought he wasn't that cool. They always say that if you're a bit of a loner and that, life has been hard for you, that's when you're the funniest.
Well, if you have acne, my skin was at my downfall when I was growing up, and right into my 40s, actually, until I discovered what the problem was. And if you have spots on your face, your confidence goes right out of the window. Mm-hmm. And it's a barrier between you and the other person because you imagine them just looking at your face.
But I think he used comedy to overcome it.
Well, that's what you do. Mm-hmm. Then you become a comedian because you're going, well, if I just make enough noise and I'm funny enough, you won't look at my face.
Exactly.
But it makes you very reclusive in some ways. Until it's gone, until your face is clear, you don't feel confident to face the world. Those people who go out and have a clear face somehow are able to communicate better.
Yeah. I don't know. I never thought of it that way. And it's really funny because as he's grown and he acquired real estate and wealth, he bought a farm in Massachusetts. My father used to always tell me that David Letterman came to see him before he left town with his wife at the time. They were in a truck and they stopped off at his bag company to get names of agents and comedians who my father was friends with through the Friars Club. And so my father gave him all his contacts, to which David made contact, and it helped him a great deal in launching his career out in California. And it's funny, I ran into David at the Martha's Vineyard Airport many years ago, and my dad had just died. And I asked him if he remembered Maury Katz from Indianapolis. And he said, absolutely. You mean the bag man? And I go, yeah, that was my dad. And I said, he just died, because he had asked how he was. And I said, he just died. But he always told us this story. Is this story true? And it turns out it was. My dad had, Jack Benny came to our house on the moon landing, and we had a big party there. Red Buttons. Milton Berle, he was our Uncle Milty. He came 3 or 4 times. My dad was close to so many comedians. And
why comedians?
In the years when he was searching for a wife, when I was 2 and my sister was 4, this is right after my mom left, he handed us over to his brother and his wife. They had 3 kids, similar ages. And so basically he said, can they live here with you for a while I go out and search for a new wife? And so he went to Florida, to Miami, where he had gin games going on in the cabanas there. And they were with all these guys who were performing at the hotels. And they loved Maury because he was a great gin player and a wonderful kibitzer.
But it's weird how there are 2 distinct sides to him.
I know.
That you go out and there's this great guy that everybody loves, everybody wants to be with, everybody wants to support. Then you turn the telescope the other way around, you look through the other end, and you see his family, and they're being treated really cruelly.
Well, I wouldn't say cruelly. I think when we were growing up, he was a control freak, and that was really hard for young people to deal with. I don't think he had this cruelty. I think of somebody as putting you in a closet and leaving you there. That's cruel. He might have been cruel in not giving support to his children and grandchildren. That might have been cruel. But it also might have been a generosity toward his wife. I don't know. I mean, it's a real kind of fine line with my dad. And I wouldn't want a podcast to be out there with me bashing my father. He was a good man.
Yeah, exactly. But
he lived 94 years, and he made huge contributions to life, and I think he'd led a happy life. He had such warmth and love and caring. He always encouraged me and my sister as we were growing up, especially me, because he saw in me the ability to move outside of the Indiana area, outside the family business, and to really project myself into the world. And entertainment was his fascination. And I got into the world of television, and that made him really, really excited. He would go to these events with me. I had a contract with CBS for about 7 years, and he would go every year with me to this conference that CBS would throw, and everyone knew him. And when he died, those CBS people all came back to me and said, "How's your dad? Where's your dad?" He made a mark. It was a dichotomy with him. He had the cruel side and he had the sweet side, kind of like his parents.
It's just a shame that as kids, you have to deal with the residue of the cruel side for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Intellectually, you can say, well, what a great guy. Look what he did. Look at the achievements he had.
Right.
And that's not to be belittled in the slightest. But you can also say, as his daughter, emotionally, this left me in therapy for 20 years.
Yeah, I think that is the case. But I also think that if I could find the forgiveness, I'd be really happy, because my husband always tells me he gave me great gifts. And it wasn't necessarily money. He gave me confidence, structure. He encouraged me to go for whatever it was I could dream of and do. Those are gifts that you can't put a value on, but oh my God, they make you the person you are. My life now is the happiest it's ever been.
Is it really?
I have a wonderful husband. Oh my God, how lucky I am. He takes such good care of me and loves me with so much greatness. I mean, just always thoughtful. And we're like that to each other. There's no selfishness in our relationship at all. So that is like the foundation. And then I raised 2 fabulous children who are full of give back. You know what I mean? And I live in a beautiful home, a beautiful neighborhood filled with wonderful people, really nice people. Once I got rid of all the negativity in my life, I allowed myself to be a happy person, and now I am.
So did you find eventually the validation you needed?
Totally. To be with the man that I love is the most important thing. It took a long time. I had to kiss a lot of frogs. And I have, with my ex-husband, who's the father of my children, and I was married to him for quite a while, I have incredible relationship.
So how did you get to be so mature?
I don't know.
Where did that all go right?
I don't know. Maybe I got together and found happiness. Maybe that's it. Maybe when you're not angry all the time. And now that I'm getting well, and the pain that I have now is a healing pain as opposed to a negative pain, I feel even better.
So would you be ready to answer the life quiz?
Sure. I think I've done it.
You haven't begun, lady. Just
Okay.
you wait.
Okay. This is going to be really good.
Right, we're back. This is round 1 of the life quiz with Jill Katz, a very, very accomplished Emmy-winning
Graphic design. Marketer.
Yeah.
Producer.
There is nothing this woman can't do. Okay, so this is basically about experience. This is about what you've learned from your life. Question 1. Give me one major thing you would have done differently or not done at all if you'd known how your life was going to turn out.
I think I'd listen more. I don't think I listened
Listen to
enough.
whom?
Anyone. You can learn so much about people when you listen, and I don't think I had the patience. I would talk when people were talking, and I didn't listen. And I think when you listen, you learn, the whole world opens up to you.
And what was the need to talk? Just validation again. Look at me, look at me, look at me.
I think I was impatient and maybe even had a little ADHD for all I know. But now that I'm older, I listen. I listen a lot.
And don't you look at people who don't listen and go, you need to shut up?
You can't learn anything of what people are saying to you if you're not listening. Listen. It's really important. It's a life lesson.
See, this is the wisdom of age.
I
You've got to
think
go
so,
a few
yeah.
years before you know that's true.
I never listened when I was young. I was always halfway out the door.
Were you very contrary in the sense that somebody would say, this is the rule, this is what you should do, and you do the opposite?
Yeah. I think
Rebellious for its own sake.
Totally.
Okay, question 2. Nominate one characteristic about yourself that you would have changed if you could, which would have made you a better person to know.
That's a tough question. Can we move to the next one?
No. Oh, come on, there must be something. You're not perfect.
No, I just don't know what it
Well, you've
is.
said one already. You would have been more
Well,
patient. You would have listened.
Yeah. And I would say that again, but I don't want to use the same answer. Probably, as I was growing up, I was a little bit stuck on myself. I thought I was pretty unflappable, and
You're also a fashion model at one point.
yeah. I think I kind of had a big ego, and I could have probably changed that, or probably been better off without it.
How were you with waiters in restaurants?
Fabulous. I give big tips.
But now you do. Now you've learned your lesson. But what about back then?
Oh, I always was apologizing for my father. I'd stay behind and say, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, he's had a bad day. I'm just generous, and my heart is big, and maybe it got bigger as I got older. But I think that, I think I was a little stuck on myself and thought that nothing's going to happen. I can do anything I want. And
Kind of arrogance, really.
yeah, a bit of arrogance, a bit of self-confidence that was probably not really earned.
Question 3. What's one lesson in life that you were once told was true, but which you found not to be true at all?
Well, I think my father's influence on religion. Both my mom and my dad were really demanding of our involvement in religion and being a good Jew and participating, doing the Hebrew school, getting bar mitzvahed. And I think it's good for some people to have that kind of religious training and carry it through their life. Maybe they need the spiritual guidance, but I didn't feel like I needed that. So I really...
Was that part of the arrogance?
Maybe, but I just felt like it was a nuisance to me in some way. And I don't think I raised my children with enough religious background.
Oh, you went the other way?
Yeah, I did. I wanted them to go to a Hebrew school, but my ex-husband didn't want them. He's an atheist, so he didn't want them to be trained that way. I finally got my son over to Israel with my daughter. We got him into a bar mitzvah program, and he got bar mitzvahed, and 2 minutes later, he sunk over and started vomiting and got sick, and was sick for 13 years of his life. So I always thought that visit to Israel was kind of not so great, and that it kind of was coincidence maybe that he got so sick on such an important event.
He stayed sick for 13 years?
Yeah.
Based on that one trip?
Yeah. We rushed to the hospital in Tel Aviv. Fortunately for me, my dad had friends there, so he was able to get us really good service. And my cousin Sherry was living in Israel at the time, so she was able to speak Hebrew fluently and help me with the doctors there. But I found while I was there and dealing with this terrible mess from my son, that people were so rude to me. And here my father had always said, let's raise money for Israel. Let's plant trees in Israel. You've got to be a good Jew. It'll all come back to you. And, I am Jewish and I'm spiritually religious, but everything kind of fell apart when I did the bar mitzvah. So I never did that for my daughter. And I kind of ran away, from
So are you very
shul.
pro-Israel now?
Well, right now, I am not a big fan of Netanyahu. I think he's a warrior. I think he's a hawk. I feel very angry at him. And I know that having been in that region, in that territory, the Israelis are really, really strong people. They're fighters, They're always on the defense. So maybe he represents them and maybe he doesn't. But right now I'm kind of anti-Netanyahu and pro-Israel.
Don't you think it's a weird time to be alive right now? That instead of war being something that resolved issues. I was never a big fan of it, even when it resolved issues. But instead of it being resolved issues between countries or just used for imperialistic advancement or whatever, it's used as just, oh, let's just bomb them. Haven't we got to a stage where fighting is just like the first resort now for everything?
We have no business interfering with cultures and history and religions.
And why haven't we learned that?
I don't know.
It's getting worse,
I think
actually.
we think that capitalism and democracy is the way the world should run, but I think that's where the problems lie, and they're so old, the problems, that we can't possibly solve them. We have many members of Congress who want to just send us to war. I think they like patting the pockets of their buddies at Halliburton.
Well, yeah, they're sponsored by the military
and they
establishment.
make a lot of money, and
Yeah.
but I think that what it has done, creating terrorism across the world, it's just so dangerous now to travel. I don't encourage anyone to do it. I certainly wouldn't go back to the Middle East now that I know how people feel about Jews. And I just think that it's important for us right now to just be loyal to one another. And I just don't think that having a Republican Congress who's hating a president and disrespecting him as they are is good. I think it's terrible.
Anyway, so...
Life lesson.
Yeah. So question 4. Outside of things like family and friends, what has been the greatest joy of being alive?
Having people like me and responding to my personality.
Oh, validation, therefore, is the biggest joy.
Biggest joy. Maybe not.
Well, what makes me think about that is that's just based on insecurity.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need validation if you were secure.
Yeah. Well, see, I think I am.
What, secure?
Yeah. Validation. Maybe that I had a successful career. Validation in knowing that I knew what I was doing, that I was smart, and that I had the energy to bring a lot of people into that fold. And I had a real success in creative. And that was always my biggest joy. I mean, I guess we all have that desire to be focused on one thing, but I think if I had spent 50 years of a career just standing there doing the same thing,
Working my way up a building.
I probably
till I
would
was
be
in the top
dead.
floor.
I would probably be dead because the stress that it takes. I was never good at corporate politics. I mean, bosses always found me to be difficult because I just didn't go with the flow, and I was always rebellious, like I told you before. And I think you find out in life that being who you are, you can shine like a star. That was my motto to my children, was be who you are and shine like a star.
Yeah.
Because I think if you try to be what other people want you to be, you'll be really unhappy.
And how many people do that? How many people are
Everybody.
living out their parents' expectations?
Absolutely, as was my father.
Question 5. What is your greatest sadness or disappointment about the way life has unfolded for you?
That I never knew my mother. That I never had that benefit of her guidance, her love, her genuine charisma and personality that I see from her daughters, how special they are and how loving. And, I just think that I would have really benefited from that. I mean, my stepmother was wonderful and she was very, very sweet and loving. But I think that every girl wants to look up and see her mother's face and hers. And I think I miss that. And being so young and never having that grounding or that attachment.
Is that one of those lying in bed in the middle of the night thinking about life kind of issues?
No, I wouldn't lie in bed and worry about it now. It's too late. And now all I can do is be there for my grandchildren, You can't wallow in the things you didn't get because there were reasons they didn't come your way.
Yeah, but that's so mature again.
No.
It is. It's compared to a lot of people. That's a very mature way of looking at life. Many people spend a lot of their average week
Oh, I'd like
regressed
to add, I'd like
into
to
the
add
past.
another thing.
Oh, what?
I wish my son had never been sick. That really
Those 12 years.
Well, he still has the disease, and he's 34 now.
What's the disease?
Crohn's disease. And, but I wish he had had a normal upbringing and normal life, and I think that was a big sadness for me that I may never really get over, nor will he. It's so much a part of you when you're ill, and he had the courage to get through it with great, great strength. I mean, I watched him. He became a man before most of the people his age, and he spent many, many years on really difficult drugs that had terrible side effects. And I'm always worrying about his health, always.
Question 6.
Okay.
If you had to... So what are we saying was your greatest sadness? Oh, your kid. Right, okay. Question 6. If you had to pass on one piece of wisdom or advice to an impressionable child, what would it be?
Be nice to everybody. Don't be mean.
Don't be
Yeah.
a jerk, in other words.
Yeah.
But
Don't.
you were a jerk when you were younger, and so was I.
Because I would advise against it. I also think, what I said before, be who you are. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to fit in with everybody else. That's not necessary in life. If you're really true to who you are, like you are, Cash Peters, if you're true to who you are, you can find some really great happiness.
But do you not think, though, that we're brought up to seek and almost yearn for belonging?
Yeah.
To be yourself means often to be eccentric, to be different, to stand out. You don't want that. Most people don't want that. They want to just
But
fit in, to belong, to be a jigsaw piece in the whole
All
puzzle.
the years that I tried to fit in and be part of the group, I was unhappy. And I put up with it. And I was often lambasted by friends because I wasn't like them. But instead of being individual and really trying to be as strong and independent and individual as I wanted to be, I just didn't do it. So now I would advise to do that because you don't have to fit in. Life is about a lot of different people and personalities and traditions and influences, and you just kind of have to be who you are and find your happiness that way.
If you seek out people that you think must like you and you try to please them, you'll always be unhappy. If you just shine where you are, the right people will see your light.
That's right.
And sail towards you like ships in the night.
Absolutely.
But you don't realize that. It takes years to actually be confident enough to say, okay, instead of running around after you all, trying to be friends with you and trying to please you and trying to win your favors, I'm going to stand still.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the best me in this moment that I can be.
That's perfect.
And other people will go, well, I like the me over there.
Exactly.
And they head for you. And you end up with the right kind of people in your life.
And I think that's a great lesson in life.
But it takes years of sticking out to do
may,
that.
but if you are telling your children this early in life and giving them that foundation of encouragement, when you can embrace your individuality, you are a better person because of it.
I agree. Absolutely. Question 7. Why do you think you were put on the planet? Are you satisfied that you fully justified your time here?
Yeah, I feel really good about my contributions to life. I feel like I've been honored so many times with so many situations and people. And I feel that I've been really lucky to have lived as long as I have, because I think there were definitely places and times when I could have lost it. And certainly depression when it hits you.
Oh, you're
takes over.
depressed?
I had depression for about 10 years, real bad, when I was going through divorce, because I had made a decision to divorce, and I thought my future was sitting right there ready to take over, and it wasn't. And I had to stay stilted in a sadness that I had to deal with. I got onto Prozac, that helped, but being in therapy all those years was really my calling card, because depression is a real killer, and I have a lot of it in my family, a lot, and we've lost members of our family to it.
Did you ever consider suicide?
I think when I was going through that hard time, I might have. Certainly, I would never have done it because I had children, and I had a commitment that I had made, and I'm good for my commitments,
But I also think you have a commitment to life. Knowing you as I know you, yes, it gets hard at times, and yes, it's horrible, but you seem to have a real commitment to making good.
What else can you do in your life? If you ask anybody, they will tell you I'm a giving tree. I'm just give, I don't take. And I don't have expectations of other people so that they can't disappoint me. And that was a huge lesson that I learned, because I think I expected a lot in life. And you can't. You have to really go with the flow in many cases, or make it happen for yourself. Yeah, so.
In my book, actually, there's one of the rules of becoming whole
Yeah.
is expect nothing, accept everything.
That's a brilliant line.
Because if you expect nothing, you will live in reality.
Yeah.
And if you accept everything that happens as a kind of blessing, as something that was meant to be, that you've got to deal with,
Or a challenge that you have to face.
or a challenge, you will become stronger. And the reality you live in will become bigger and bigger and bigger because you will have conquered these challenges. Basically, expect nothing, accept everything. It's
Yeah,
the recipe
I think that's a really
for a very
good line.
stable life. Question 8. What's your legacy? When your biography is written, what will it say you did to make the world a better place?
Kindness. and generosity and caring, that I wasn't a selfish person in life, that I really spent my life giving and taking care of other people. I'm drawn to people that way, and I don't walk away. I stay. I think that's what I'll be remembered for. Maybe some of my small circle of friends will make a joke of the fact that I was Miss Miami Beach 1971.
Maybe that's what'll be on your gravestone.
Yeah, she was Miss Miami Beach. But it's going back to that line, be who you are and shine like a star. I think that's the mantra I share with my legacy.
You shine. I would say that you actually do shine. I've thought that the whole time I've ever known you.
Thank you.
You are a presence in a room when you walk in.
I am, and I have to say both my children are too. They walk in a room and everybody's like there with them, especially my daughter. She's got a lot of the same qualities, and she's like a chick magnet or a guy magnet.
Question 9. In what way are you still searching?
I'm trying to find something new, something important that I can embrace, hold on to. I don't know what that is.
You mean contribute?
Yeah, I think that's it. I still feel that to really have a relevant life, you have to give back and you have to find, a purpose. I mean, it's like what I said before. I'm retired now and I'm like trying so hard to find the next thing that's going to make me happy and that's going to fulfill me in some way.
But you had a purpose, and your purpose you've fulfilled 50,000 times over.
But that's up till 65. Now I've got 65 and beyond. I think I need to find a passion other than my family and friends. I need to find something that I can put my head into and just get excited about again. Because that's what, I've always felt from my career. Always been excited. I am satisfied with where I am, but I want to have relevance in my life, and I want to be relevant. And so, I'm trying to figure out the next thing.
Excellent. And question 10. What, in your view, is the bigger purpose of life? Why are we here?
See, now, if I were really spiritual, I'd have an answer. To serve God, things like that. I guess my purpose...
No, what are we here, though, for? The broader, not just you.
Okay.
What are we
here
for?
What, all of us?
Why do we exist? Why are human beings in existence?
Gee, I have no idea. I really don't.
You've never given that question a thought?
No, because that's too broad. That's too big. I can't think that big. I mean, that's like, it is spiritual. It's like something...
Is that a threshold you can't cross anymore because of the religious thing when you were young?
I don't know. I mean, I'm spiritual. I pray. I pray to God. I believe in God. But I don't know why we're all here. I guess to give, to love, to be, to... I don't know. I just don't know the bigger purpose. I wonder how long we'll all be here, considering where everything is with the planet. And my generation, they'll be able to get through it, but our children and our grandchildren won't. Terrorism is just everything. I mean, they're terrorists next door to you, for all you know. And racism, I am angry that the world has turned out to be the way it is right now. I wish it wasn't that way. I wish that people had taken care of the earth and my little portion of it. I wish I'd been better.
Was there a time when you thought it was going to be different?
Well, I watched Interstellar recently, and the earth got so hot that it was destroyed, and all the people with it. And that, I think, could happen, and that we have to search for other planets to go live on. And it's really scary.
You know what's very interesting is that, at best, I will live till 2050. Unless there's some kind of miracle thing comes along and just boosts everybody's lifespan by another 100 years, which I don't really want anyway.
Yeah.
The most I can live is like 2050. That's kind of when the Earth will be over. And we're the last generation who are going to see the Earth in any kind of reasonable state.
That is the saddest part of it all.
Isn't it horrible?
And that's why I can't answer that question, because all I keep thinking of is, well, wait a minute.
We're here to destroy it all.
You know, we are all on this Earth destroying it every single day. As a nation, we're so brilliant, we're so rich, we're so everything, and we cannot solve these problems for the smallest zealots and people who just want to control and don't want to care.
If we could just do something about this military predominance.
I know.
And this urge to fight at every turn.
It's terrible.
So that the military complex can actually military-industrial complex can make tons of money. If we could overcome that and get the corruption out of government, we'd be so further along the road than we are.
I just feel like we need to stay out of other people's problems and deal with our own. I mean, these countries who need us and we have to support them. I mean, we need to support the people who are here in our own country. That's a sad thing.
Okay, that's the end of round one.
All right.
And we'll be back after the break.
The Life Quiz is brought to you by Penner Press, a boutique publisher with a global mission to expand minds and change lives. Penner Press publishes books that the big boys would never dare, including 2 of Cash Peter's most popular works, A Little Book About Believing and Why Your Life Matters, available as ebooks and in paperback. The future is being made right now, so check out books by Penners today and dare to start living the bold, bright, healthy new life you know you deserve. Penner Press. Now, back to the Life Quiz.
Okay, we're back with round 2 with Jill Katz, my very special guest. This is the blind round. There are 15 questions in this round, but before you expire in front of me, you only have to answer 5 of them. And they're a lot quicker than the ones you've just answered.
So that means that if I don't like the 5, there's 10 more I can choose
There's 10 more, except I won't let you. Once you choose a number, you're stuck with answering that, all right? But you don't know what the question is before you choose a number. All right, so choose a number between 1 and 15, please.
9.
Who have you yet to forgive?
My father.
Oh, I thought you were done with that. Hadn't we
No.
covered that ground?
No, I'm still working on it.
You're still filled with
Yeah,
pain?
yeah. And I think also my birth mother, too. I need to forgive her for not being there,
Do you have a victim part of you?
I think I did when I was growing up. I try not to think that way
But if you're still
now.
in pain, you must have some kind of link to
Yeah.
victimhood.
That's true, I guess, but I like to think of myself as much stronger than being a victim. I think victims are people who just don't take control of their own destinies and work their way through their issues. And I'm not that kind of person. I do think that I was victimized by the fact that other people were deciding my fate and deciding who I would be until I realized that I had to be me, But, yeah, and I think I have to forgive my first husband, Sandy, for having walked away when he couldn't deal with me anymore. I have to forgive him for that.
But I understand. Okay, pick another number.
3.
Where do we go after we die?
I hope heaven. I believe that. I do. I think there's a spirit that lives on, and I don't know if it shows up in another personality, like another being, maybe even an inherited child or a dog. But I really want to believe there is a greater power and some place that we can live on.
You think that it's not all over when it's over?
No, because I can still feel my parents hovering around me. And I can see them in so many little things that I do every day.
But that's their legacy, and it's more palpable because it's just your memory and your mind projecting in a way. They're not here.
No, it's spirit. It's spirit.
You think they're here?
I feel a presence. I don't necessarily see them. I don't necessarily even hear them, but I feel their presence. Like I can feel they're looking over me, my shoulder. And maybe that's just fantasy, I don't know, but I still feel their presence.
If you can feel their presence, if you felt that your parents were looking over your shoulder right now,
they'd be real happy. They'd be real happy.
they wouldn't be happy to know that you have not forgiven them yet.
They would be happy with the way my life turned out. Okay? I don't know about the forgiveness part because my dad didn't live to see me get angry. He never knew that. He only heard and saw sweetness and lovingness from me. And it wasn't until after he was buried and the wills started circulating and the ex-wife was starting to be mean to us. That's when the anger came out, long beyond he was gone. Same thing with my mom. I mean, I think I lived angry at her for a lot longer in life because it was like every turn, it's like, who do I look like here?
What I'm saying is that if they're here looking over your shoulder and you sense their presence, don't you think they also sense your continuing anger and that you could just go, hey, we're done. Your
no,
spirit
I
now.
think they're looking at my life and saying, wow, she landed in mink slippers. I do. I think they're really proud of me. I think they're really excited for me and my children and my husband. I mean, I just think they would be so proud and so happy. I don't think they would know my anger. I don't think they feel that. Those aren't the feelings that I'm walking around with giving to them. I feel them hovering because it's a wisdom that they offer to me, or support that they might give me, or a reminder, like you said, of memories past where they might have said something that stayed with me.
Yeah, no. Give me another number.
5.
At what point did it all become real for you?
I don't think there's one time. I think there's many times. The first one was realizing that I had a mother that was still alive. That was one of them. The second one was...
No, that actually isn't true. It's not the not knowing. Did it become real when you found out? It wasn't real simply because you didn't have a mother you knew about.
It became real when I found that envelope, or that file with all the stuff in it and all the memories that I never got to have. That was real. I think when Jake got sick, that was real. Having to deal with the life and death of your son, the possibility of death with your son, your children, that's just brutal. And that is real. Sitting in hospitals every day and watching the blood coming out of his body, seeing him in pain, watching him come down the stairs bleeding. I mean, that's real.
It's a lesson in compassion of the highest
well,
order.
Strength. Right? His strength and mine. It took courage to be in those rooms with him. Strength to give him hope that he'd get better when he would cry or when he would feel sad.
Okay, another question, please. Between 1 and 15.
15. We've been married 15 years, Scott and I, so that's a lucky number.
Give me 3 things you'd like people to say about you at your funeral.
She was funny. She was beautiful. She was giving.
Another number.
How about 10?
Miraculously, a genie appears and grants you 3 wishes. Anything is now possible. What would they be? And you can't ask for more wishes.
Great health for me and my husband and my children. To be able to live with some success, whether it's happiness, maybe even some wealth. And I think the most important thing is that the earth doesn't burn out and that my children will be able to live in a happier world than we are right now.
So what would the wish be then?
That the Republicans go away and
But the party
and the
is
reality.
dissolved.
Yeah, there you go.
And suddenly the world is full of light and love, kindness and compassion. One last one.
Oh, 2.
What's your greatest weakness or vice?
Well, it used to be smoking cigarettes. I smoked for way too long. I think food right now.
Food is your vice?
What is a vice?
A vice is like something that you know you shouldn't be doing,
Okay.
but you do anyway, and it's like, well, that's my one vice. You're good in every other way, but then I have one weakness that goes, I have to...
Yeah, well, that I can't control my appetite, I guess. I wish I were more disciplined.
Food is your weakness.
I wish I was thin. I want to be thin again.
Alrighty, and that's the end of round 2. We'll be back for the wrap-up round very soon. Hi guys, it's Cash, just popping in for a moment. You know how each time I do this podcast, I always mention how if you want to send money, you can, and there's a button for you to donate to, all that sort of stuff. This time, finally, I'm saying stop. Stop sending money. We're done. It's okay. I'm so grateful to the people who did send in money. A woman called Sylvia Hunter in England gets a special mention for sending in several donations, and I am very grateful to you. Thank you very much, Sylvia. But just generally, thank you. I appreciate it, and you can stop now. Just stop sending in donations. The podcast is fine, and it's not often you hear that. I know everybody just wants to get their hands on other people's money. We are not like that. I am not like that. I am just grateful you did what you did, and the time has come to stop. All right, and now back to the live quiz with my guest this week, Jill Katz. Alrighty, round 3, and really the name speaks for itself here. It's just 3 questions to wrap everything up. Question 1. You're rushed to the hospital. Doctors say you have 48 hours left to live. What would you do in those 48 hours that you've not done so far?
Perform in a movie.
And what's stopping you doing that?
Oh, the reality is...
You can't act?
I probably can't. But I would love to have been a famous movie star or something.
Or just be in a movie?
Yeah, or just be in a movie. Or direct a movie. Yeah, I would love to do that. That would be really cool. But I don't know if I could get it together in 48 hours. I mean, come on.
Well,
a short film, maybe.
Let's
Something
just
that
say you
HBO
could.
might run.
Yeah, just some. You know, the funny thing was that I was once asked by a friend who runs a production company, would I come in and do a rough voiceover that they would replace with Richard Dreyfuss later on? So I go into his office in Glendale and I record this thing, and it's the voice of what will be Charlie Chaplin in a movie.
No.
Because he was British and they just
Yeah,
thought of
yeah.
me. So I go in and I do this voiceover, and it's just reading out a line or a paragraph for time to a video. It was a gift to a friend. Yeah, fine. Goodbye. So about 6 months later, the movie is complete. And I get a call saying, we've decided not to replace your voice.
Oh,
and we'll be
sweet.
using you.
Sweet.
And I go, but I don't sound anything like Charlie Chaplin. I was just reading in my own voice. In other words, this voice I'm using right now. So there was no acting. There was nothing. It was just my voice. So he said, oh, it doesn't matter. It's absolutely fine. Then I was invited to the premiere in San Francisco. I go to the premiere, and George Lucas is there, and Robin Williams is there, and Nancy Pelosi was there, and all these, I think Francis Ford Coppola was there, and just major filmmakers were in this movie theater, the one on the Castro. And I sat there, and it's kind of dead silence throughout the movie. It's a documentary about filmmakers. It's called Fog City Mavericks, right? We all sit through this movie, this entire movie theater, and nobody laughs until they get to my bit. And then you hear me in this movie theater saying these lines, and everybody falls about laughing. It gets applause.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And I'm thinking, what? This is the craziest moment of my life. But then at the end, it's like 2 hours long or an hour and a half long. At the end, my name goes up on the screen on its own.
Oh, sweet.
On this big screen, all the way up to the top.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, I'm sitting there going, this is the best moment of my entire life. Because, like, George Lucas's eyes are watching
fixed
my
on your
name going up screen. And he's probably thinking, who the hell's that? But Robin Williams was watching my name, and all these people. And I'm thinking, whoa, I've been in a movie now. This is so great.
Cool.
It was a great, but it wasn't so much that I was in the movie, because I've done a lot of things where I've been in things. I was sitting in the movie theater with George Lucas watching my name go up the screen. It was the best thing ever.
That's inspiring.
It was the best thing ever. That's probably the highlight of my entire life, just that moment there.
I think I'm getting to a place now after listening to you talk that says maybe it's time to sit down and write my story.
You could just have a transcript of this broadcast.
Yeah.
Put it out as a leaflet.
And like I said, I'd love to direct a movie or be in a movie. I think if I had 48 hours left, either I'd be looking for the cure, if there was one, or I'd be gathering the troops, which is all my friends and family, and ask them to come and sit vigil with me while I pass through. I got to do that with my mother, my stepmother. I got to be there as she passed through, and my sisters and I will never forget it. It was a really powerful moment.
Question 2. What do you consider to be a universal truth?
Universal truth. I don't know. That's a tough question. A universal truth. That the world is crazy. I don't know.
The world is crazy.
The earth is round. The planet is full of terrorists. Republicans rule.
That Republicans are corrupt and liars?
I can't say that.
Why not? So
I don't know. Vote Democratic.
So what are we
Whatever.
going with? The world is round. That's the
Okay.
universal truth.
Nah, don't use that question.
I've got to use it. It's part of the quiz.
Oh, all right. Universal truth. I don't know the answer.
The last question. Who are you really?
I am a 65-year-old mom, wife, grandmother, creative writer, producer, an amazing aunt. I mean, amazing. And I'm just a kind of an easygoing person who's been living with back pain for a long time and is going to overcome it. I think that's who I am. I think I'm a happy, genuine person. I'm real. There's no holes barred with me. I don't lie. I just am who I am.
I'm now going to tell you who you are.
Cool.
You are a very, very bright light. You are an amazing, astonishing, enthusiastic, vibrant, encouraging example to us all of how human beings could be if they tried just that little bit harder.
That's beautiful. And I'm honored.
That's great. Jill Katz, thank you very much.
Thank you, Cash Peters. It's an honor to know you.
And there she goes. Don't you agree there's something quite amazing and infectious about her spirit? Her light really does shine so brightly. I just wish everybody could meet her in person.